All right, it's the start of another semester and I'm an adjunct at Elmhurst University. I've been doing it for over 20 years. But this time, I'm going to show you exactly how much I get paid to teach a course at Elmhurst University. So stick around and I'll show you what my paycheck actually is and what you can expect teaching as an adjunct, not just at Elmhurst University, but at most schools across the U.S.
I love my job.
You hate your job.
I love my job.
You're miserable.
I love my job.
All right, got my coffee, doing some class prep for my course. And yes, today I'm going to tell you how much I make as an adjunct instructor teaching at Elmhurst University. And we started another semester, and there's been a pay increase, so I'm rich. Actually, I'm still working on it. But what I'd like to do today is take you through some of what it's like to teach as an adjunct and how much I actually get paid. Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is the Do-Over Show, where we dig deeper to figure out how and how much things like an adjunct instructor can get paid. What part of your income can it be? And what can you do as an adjunct instructor to maybe change that for the better? And yes, I will show you my actual contract and how much I'm going to get paid this semester. But first, let's go through the details. Let's get the landscape and figure out what it is that's going on today in higher education and how much adjuncts actually are compensated. Right up front, let's face it. Anyone working as an adjunct instructor, professor, lecturer, whatever the school wants to call you, it's up to them. It's a temp job. It's contract, semester by semester, course by course. And if they want you back, they'll offer you another course, but there are no guarantees. It's not full-time. There are no benefits. There's no sabbatical. Now, what an adjunct makes is a side hustle. You make some cash, you trade your hours, your time, your experience, your education, and you trade that value that you have for a paycheck in the classroom, doing research, class prep, grading papers, maybe office hours, answering emails, and hand-holding for students who are struggling and wonder if they're going to pass your course. But there is no guarantee for you if after you submit your final grades for the semester and do a stellar job teaching and get those great student evaluations, that you'll be back next semester. Now, some of you may be the lucky ones. Not as lucky as a tenured professor, but maybe you've got a full year contract or a temp contract. I've had all of those as I was working, trying to make a living early as a teacher in higher education. But over the years, my life has changed and I've moved away from full-time employment in higher education. And by the way, I've done a few videos on the subject, and I've heard from many of you who are either starting out, learning, struggling, trying to find your way in a competitive job market. And thanks so much for watching those videos and for the questions and the comments and the stories, your stories of what it's like to want to do something you love but to not have the opportunity of doing it. And some of you have worked through the labyrinth, jumped through the hoops, and actually found yourself some full-time employment. Some of you even get benefits. What are you going to do with that health insurance? Maybe some dental. Who knows? But all of us in the adjunct world are trying to work through that fight of the job market and work through working with administrators and trying to please somebody, the department chair, the academic dean, the provost, anyone who could look at us and say, "I pick you, Pikachu." But there's a dark side to this, and you probably know that as well, the deceptions and the half-truths that they tell us and the lies that we want to believe. Yes, there are lies that we want to believe that they dangle out in front of us saying, "Well, I'm going to give you a job as an adjunct, and maybe if you do a good job, we'll see what else we can do for you." There is nothing else they're going to do for you. There is nothing else that they do for adjuncts. We are temporary. We are replaceable. We are like cogs in an industrial machine. We can simply be swapped out because there are a dozen others just like us sending their CVs and their cover letters and their student evaluations. Now, before I actually show you my contract and exactly what I'm going to get paid this semester, I want to let you know what's really happening and changing in the world of adjuncts today. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Almost 1 year ago, the adjunct faculty at Virginia Commonwealth University staged a public protest, marching through the campus to the president's office, demanding a 172% pay increase in adjunct pay. Wow. And what happened? Nothing. I'm sure it was a good photo op, and yes, their amygdalas were awakened, but beyond that, nothing has happened and their pay has remained exactly the same.
You pissed John. Are you? Yeah.
You see, for most of us, that kind of public protest and complaint is the route that we take. Heck, we're in higher education. That's what we do. We have ideas, we throw them out there, we piss off some people, and then we see what happens. And here's the problem. Usually nothing happens. At the University of Houston, an anonymous adjunct. Now, why would an adjunct want to remain anonymous when they publish the dirty details of compensation and lack of benefits and the ongoing exploitation of adjunct faculty? I wonder why. Oh yeah, because they're expendable. Because if you raise too much noise, they just won't ask you back. It's a passive-aggressive way of, well, firing if it was firing, but it's not firing because you work on a contract for service basis, semester by semester, most of us, which means they just don't have to call you back next semester. Hey, and at Tulane University, a recent study shows that they've got plenty of money to increase salaries for administrators, for staff, very little, if nothing, for tenured faculty, and nothing for their large cohort of adjunct professors, instructors, and lecturers. Hey, and closer to home, you can do a simple search of Glassdoor or Indeed and find out that they call the average salary, it's not a salary, it's an hourly wage, is about $28.31 for an adjunct in the greater Chicagoland area. Now that's below the national average of just over $40 in major metropolitan areas for colleges and universities and schools. And it's well below the higher average in some places, higher cost of living places, where it reaches almost $60 per hour. Now that per hour number, of course, depends on how many hours you spend. And let's face it, some of you obsess a little bit more and spend a lot more time than you need to. Why? Well, you're trying to do a good job. You actually care about this. Maybe it's a new prep. Maybe it's a difficult class. Maybe you're trying to impress someone, so if you do twice as much class prep and you write twice as many comments on student papers, that you'll just get hired for the magical full-time position that will materialize because of you. And just this week, there was an editorial published at the University of Cincinnati comparing the plight of adjunct professors to tenured faculty. Not exactly an apples-to-apples comparison, but it's the same field of work. By the way, I've never received an apple from a student, and if I were given an apple, I probably wouldn't eat it. The University of Cincinnati editorial laid out the dirty details of what's happening there and in most universities today. More and more higher education courses today are taught by adjuncts. The number is as high as 70% in for-profit and nonprofit schools combined. And that means that not only are they occupying a more visible and important place, but it also means that there is a glut in that market because, well, there's so many of us available. And at places like the University of Cincinnati, there are few to no pay raises, they say, and most schools have frozen adjunct compensation for 5, 10, almost 20 years at places like Virginia Commonwealth. And at the University of Cincinnati, the average adjunct makes $2,700. That's $2,700 to teach a course. Compared with the average course compensation, if you take their lump sum for a salaried tenured professor and you divide it, they make almost $24,000. Now, I know it's not apples to apples comparison because there are committee responsibilities and there are bonuses for being a tenured faculty member, but just on a course-by-course basis, the difference is between $2,700 for an adjunct teaching the same course compared to $24,000 for a tenured professor. So how much am I going to make teaching this semester at Elmhurst University? Well, toward the end of last year, the president announced that the Board of Trustees had approved a pay increase for everyone at Elmhurst. A 1% annual bonus. I got mine, a little over $100. Fantastic. And then they announced a 2% increase for salaried positions at the university, including tenured professors. The increase for adjunct faculty, the dozens of us that teach at Elmhurst University, though, wasn't quite 2%. It was less than 1.4%. Now, the last increase for adjunct faculty was back in January of 2018. I believe that's when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. And that increase was $100 per course, which was nice. So this semester, I'll be teaching 2 different courses. 2 courses as an adjunct. Why? Because they asked me. Because they needed the help, because I like to do this. This is not how I make a living. I have a real job that pays the bills every single day. This is something I do to use my PhD, my research, my love for teaching, and I just love being in the classroom, and to be able to help students learn and benefit in a higher education setting. So my real job pays the bills, and that means that I take every penny that I make as an adjunct instructor and I invest it. I trade my time in the evenings and on weekends, and I get in exchange that check every month, and I take that 100% of it goes into an investment account, so that even though I've had to change my time for that compensation, every day forward, because of that compensation, it earns me money while I sleep. And this semester, I receive $3,700 for each course that I teach, or a total of $7,400 for the semester, broken down over 4 payments over the next 4 months. That's up from $3,650 that I've received since 2018. Yep, a $50 bump after 4 years. I'm not a math major. After 4 years of working as an adjunct, teaching each semester. Yeah, and this semester teaching 2 courses. Bonus! That's an increase of less than 1.4%, while full-time faculty at Elmhurst University reportedly makes about $80,000 to $85,000 in compensation. And that means that they received a 2% increase of $1,500 to $1,600. Still not a lot of money. Still doesn't keep up with inflation or the cost of living in the Chicago area, but at least it's something, right? I'm sharing what I actually make as an adjunct teaching today because adjuncts everywhere are at a distinct disadvantage. The lack of transparency and the lack of pressure in the marketplace means that nothing is changing for adjuncts today. Not just because we're replaceable and expendable, which we are, but to realize it's still not our market, and we've got to find better ways of making this a visible and conversation topic on the campuses. The Great Resignation may have 10 million open jobs today, and over 400,000 people quit their jobs each month to find better pay, better location, better working conditions, a promotion. But today, higher education is still graduating 10 earned PhDs for every single open position. Yeah, it's not our market. Now, if you want to take a closer look at the numbers and the story of what adjuncts have experienced, I've done a couple videos on the topic, and by the way, thousands of you have looked at them and liked them, and I so appreciate it. And I'd like you to dig deeper, and if you take a look at videos like this one up here, you'll be able to see what the numbers actually look like. So please take a look there. And thank you for being part of the Do-Over Show. I really appreciate it. And please, could you like the video? And while you're down there, how about you subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode. I'm so glad you found me, and I found you. Thanks. Coffee! I think adjuncts live on coffee. Or tea. Are you a tea drinker or a coffee drinker? Or are you both? Adjuncts can be wild. It's cold, but hey, I'm an adjunct, so I'm gonna drink it. Why did I get a PhD anyway? Everyone else in my family went into accounting. Most of them are retired by now. It's crazy. I'm gonna work until I'm dead. Maybe I'm already dead. Ooh, that's an adjunct kind of question, isn't it? Higher education. Let's talk philosophy. Are we real? Am I actually here? Yes, I'm here. I'm drinking cold coffee and I can taste it.